Okay, let's get ready to start. Now, you may be forgiven for thinking, because we've reversed the order, that our guest is a politician. Because, Emma, it happens with politicians that they get on the day told there's a debate in the House, they've got a 3-line whip, so we have the grill before the mixed grill. And some of you might have been expecting Jimmy White.
Apparently you two are the only two that didn't cancel.
That's right. Everybody else, we had about, I don't know, 60 or 70 booked for Jimmy 3 months ago. Oh, I think you can cope. I got a feeling you can cope. So no, Emma, I don't believe he's a politician. Although it may be true to say you're trying to bring about political change. But I have a little thing to leave in your head while we go through this grilling. Today, in 1986, Prince Andrew and Fergie got married. Have they been? Oh no, I can't ask questions like that, can I?
No.
No.
I'll plead the fifth.
You plead the fifth. I like that, because that's one of the questions that's going to come about. So we're going to start our first question, which is going to come from Andrew.
Okay. This is not a self-interested question whatsoever, but
The rest are.
is there an age limit for attendees at your party?
No, there isn't. We did have an age limit of 50, and then we do events where we had silver kittens that went on, and then normal kind of get into parties. But when everything changed in the last 2 years, all the GDPR and PC and everything like that, we can't do that because that's age discrimination. So now we don't have any age restriction. What we do is we do a hell of a lot more events, and we have different age groups for different events. So as long as you're providing events for everyone. So for example, our country house parties we do every 2 months. They have no age limit. Our KK cabaret nights at Proud Embankment have no age limits. We do them monthly. So.
And would this group of people be representative of?
Yeah, no, absolutely. We get and we do sanctuary weekends where the average age is probably mid-50s.
So a lot younger than me.
So yeah, we cater to everyone, and all our sort of the workshops and the socials we do. There's no age limit.
I expect people age pretty quickly going to these parties regularly.
Yeah, well, I'm catching up to our original age limit from 15 years ago. As I get older, I'll just keep pushing the age limit.
Actually, I was going to ask you that, but John, let's follow that with a question from John there.
Oh right, actually, hello, I'm John.
Hi.
Lovely to meet you. This has been handed to me, and the question's actually from
One of our regulars who isn't here.
Barry Brent, who's
No, hear the question.
a man in his 80s. Anyway, his question is, would you consider organising one of your famous parties, but stipulating half the men must be at least 81 years young? I do admire all you have already achieved. He's done a PS as well. I enjoyed sitting next to Lord Leicester at an earlier grill, but I'd sooner have a natter with you.
We would consider it. Wasn't it Winston Churchill that said, I'll listen to everything, consider everything, and I'll do exactly what I want.
But he stole that line.
Yeah, did he?
Yeah.
I'm just stealing it now. Well, do you know what, we'd consider it. And as I said, so far, we haven't had any 80-year-olds that have wanted to come to any of the events. So we haven't.
Barry does.
We haven't had to. We haven't had to cross that bridge yet. We have had sort of early 70s and 60s, and sometimes you get much younger women. And actually, what we're finding now, which is great, we'll have sort of women in their 50s coming along with late 20, early 30-year-old guys. And I'm like, yeah.
They arrive together.
And they're genuine couples.
They're genuine couples.
Yeah.
In real life.
In real life.
Wow.
Maybe the woman's minted and
Ah.
Can I sneak in a quick follow-up?
Yeah, go on, John. Yeah.
I've just wondered, how did the establishment treat you with a name like Killing Kittens? I mean, how the hell did you get a bank account?
Do you know what? Brilliantly, it took 6 years to get a bank account. I had to change it. I started as Killing Kittens Limited, and then no one would give us a bank account under that company name. So we changed to Aphrodite Associates, got a bank account, with Barclays, and then times have changed, and 5 years ago we've switched back to Killing Kittens Limited, and not 2011 I think we did, and now it's all fine. But do you know what, it's surprising how few people actually ask me about the name, or it's just sort of taken that it's a company called Killing Kittens, which is ridiculous.
Well, you see, you've led us into Richard's question. Richard, let's have your question.
Okay, so how did you decide on that name? Oh, actually,
Let's have the whole question, yeah.
Oh, well, it's 3.
Yeah, but it's all part of one, yeah, put it all together.
Oh, okay, well, alright, I'm not sure I can put it quite all together, but, so there's several parts. How did you come up with Killing Kittens? And I didn't put this on the paper, but I really thought you should come up with Killing Bunnies. As in the Playboy bunny, because I think you're everything what they're not.
I might ask you to expand on that later. But
Yeah. What was your inspiration? I guess. So these are and do you see Jacqueline Gold as a role model?
Jacqueline Gold, yes. I do, and it was funny on that one. I'm going to put the other ones are longer answers. On that one, it was so we launched Sister app in June, which is a women's networking platform, which isn't sort of Killing Kittens, but it's all about empowering women. That's professionally, and Jacqueline Gold sent out a tweet about it, and I've kind of had tweets from loads of people and stuff, and I got really emotional about that one. I think because it was sort of, she was someone I followed when I was launching and seeing what she had done, and was always someone in the back of my mind that I saw what she'd done and what she was doing, and to suddenly have that acknowledgement and be named, and she did it on a couple of things. Yeah, just sort of, it was just one of those moments. So she's definitely been someone. The inspiration for setting up was probably I had a really mixed upbringing. I was a defence attache's daughter, army brat, growing up very much in the Middle East a lot of the time, but at all girls boarding school over in England for like 10 years, and had a real. So all girls boarding school was told I could be whoever I wanted to be and could go out and do anything it was an equal world. And then at home, sort of living in the Middle East, was seeing something very different, but also had quite a nice piece of work for a father, and very controlling and narcissistic, and the way he treated mum. So there was a real kind of imbalance going on.
But the Middle East is a different culture.
It's a different culture, but you
in England, when you were at school, how do you think you'd have been treated at home if you were in England? Your father still would have had his characteristics.
Yeah, I think that's the thing.
Do you think it would have been different?
I don't know, because you're so, boarding school and then you're home, and it was, growing up, you don't have mobile phones. There weren't mobile phones back then. You had 5 channels. You didn't have the distractions you have now.
I was on a mobile phone for 35, 40 years.
I got one 20 years ago. The last year at university. So
that was your father controlling you.
Exactly, bastard.
Didn't you just go and get one, a secret one?
Now he loves one, of course he does. And he sort of growing up like that, and then I started working in financial PR, and actually had some quite nasty sexual harassment issues, and went and complained, and was told I'd be a troublemaker, and I was like 21, and to really think about it, and did I want to be complaining, did I want to keep working in the city, and so let it slide, and then it carried on, so I complained again.
Can you give us an insight into what they were?
So it wasn't sort of full-on ones, it was more, I got moved, so the director of this agency sort of moved me to sit next to him, away from the other team, who was very touchy-feely, and I did sports science at university. I lived with 5 guys, and they were rugby players and cricket players, and I'm an army brat. When it comes to male banter, I've got no issue with it whatsoever, and can give as good as it gets. So I'm not precious. It was just really uncomfortable, and everyone else noticed as well. And sort of a few instances when I'd go and just a little like hole punching. It was in the back room, and he'd come behind me, and I'd arm standing and said, I'll give you some, I can punch something out. It was constant, which you don't really think about. But it was just.
But leave gender out of this. That's just bloody unpleasant.
It's just unpleasant. Male or female. Exactly. It was totally unpleasant, and complained again. And realised. Then I found out. Someone else told me that the head of HR was best mates with this director. So I left.
Was there anything going on there?
No, just old family friends.
Oh right.
The two of them.
Nothing more modern.
No. So I left and went into entertainment PR and started doing the PR for the big erotica show. which kind of led me into the adult industry, in the sex world. And it was at the time when Anne Summers had hit the high street and Sex and the City was out, and there was all this kind of chat about this female sexual revolution going on, as they called it, in 2005, and about women being able to, talk more openly about their sex lives and things. And I was thinking, well, that's what's being spoken about, but it's not actually happening. And my girlfriends in their mid-20s, if they had a one-night stand, they'd keep it quiet out of embarrassment, or be called a slut. And guys I know would go, well, we don't want to go out. She's fit and she's lovely, but she slept with loads of people. And well, so she's not girlfriend material. It was just this real imbalance. And in the adult world, I just saw that it was a very male-run world. So all the from the porn to the sex toys, even lingerie brands, it was all men behind it. And at the same time, I was sort of socially involved with a group that some people might remember as the Primrose Hill Posse, who the girls were sort of at it left, right, and centre, and totally in control of their sexuality. And the things I saw, and I was at a wedding in Ibiza and hadn't slept for 3 days, and someone phoned in who couldn't make the wedding and said, are you all just sat around killing kittens right now? Weird. So we had this conversation that is that every time you masturbate, God kills a kitten. Is cyber
shouldn't it therefore be called saving kittens?
Saving
Because if you're preventing
there's a lot of kittens killed.
yeah, no, I mean now. You shouldn't be killing, you should be called saving kittens.
Saving kittens. So then I literally, 3 days of no sleep, I said, right, that's it, I don't want to represent anyone else, I want to launch my own thing and to stand for something, and I want to create an online and offline community where it's very much women in control of their sexuality and non-judged, and it's a safe space, and sort of that's how it started. So there's no big business plan.
But on your website you say empowering men, women and couples. Whereas you've only spoken about women so far.
Because I say if you've got a happy woman, then you've got a happy man. And that's not a sexy thing. I just think if a woman is completely empowered and feeling confident, and that's sexually and that's mentally and that's professionally and everything, then they're going to go out and think they're going to rule the world and just be really happy people. And as a result of that, their men are going to be.
Well, I heard Jo Swinson last night,
and I don't mean
and she is going to rule the world. She told us.
Yeah, but it's sort of as an example, my husband, I met him in a year I didn't want to be going out with anyone, and pushed him away for about 4 months, and he let me go out, and I pushed it, and I'd go out till 8, 9 in the morning thinking he's going to dump me. That's it, kept pushing, and realised actually he lets me be me and let me, do what I want to do, and therefore this is great. And as we've had 3 kids in the last 5 years, and my business has sort of doubled pretty much every year for the last 5 years, and it's sort of that he gives me the confidence, and he has my back, and I know he's there, and I can be me. He was a hockey player, professional hockey player, and retired from international hockey 5 years ago, and now runs a financial recruitment agency, but still plays hockey. So yeah, total mix.
You've stimulated a thought, although I came, Blue Peter was my generation, or maybe a bit before that. Well, first time round. Men are up, this is from the female, men are up front when it comes to their sexual fantasies. So why shouldn't women talk about erotic dreams too? Now, before I get you to answer that, let me read this. The way men's and women's sexuality charged dreams differ is intriguing. Men like to dream of sex with strangers and multiple partners, while women's dreams are tied to feature intimacy with someone they already know. So, is the way we often act out our sexual scenarios in our sleep that we wouldn't take part in when we're awake? Equally fascinating, and also something to celebrate, is new research showing that today's young women are having 3 times as many sex dreams as their grandmothers. We had a politician say that once. You are a politician. But the point, the thrust of that is that surveys show, do people lie to surveys? Surveys show that men and women dream differently. Would you agree with that?
I mean, they might well dream differently, but on the exact sort of, women have more intimate dreams. Most women I know and myself, I don't have my, dreams aren't really intimate dreams. They're much more fantasy kind of, and I'm a dreamer.
You're not dreaming for Mills and Boon.
No, I'm not. That sort of no. I don't. So that level. So we may well have completely different dreams, but I don't think it's that. Because when I've spoken, I have girlfriends and big group of girls, and I run a big group of sisterhood that's been going on for 14 years, and it's loads of girls doing crazy sports events for different charities, and we've got a big open WhatsApp group with there's about 50 of us on there, and the stuff that goes into that group, honestly, it's disgusting.
Can you share with us, or is this what's on to us stays on to there?
Exactly. Yeah. It's very open, and when I'm with my girlfriends, they're sort of open about sexual fantasies and things. So I think, but then I do what I do, so I find that actually I'll start, if I go into a group of women that I don't know, then they'll start quite, with no one saying anything.
Are they
and
nervous?
Then, nervous, but also it's sort of acting like they think they should be acting and saying what they think they should be saying. And the minute you sort of, I'm just out there, I'll just go bleh. And the minute
Give us an example.
You talk about fantasies, or I'll talk about this event and this happened at this event, and suddenly it's sort of like the floodgates open and everyone's chatting, and I've had a lot of women go, oh my god, it's like, I feel like you're my therapist. I'm just sort of like regurgitating all this stuff that I've never told anyone, and I've only just met you. It's sort of, I think, as women, there is still that you can't, you're not meant to discuss these things, and it's not socially acceptable and in public to talk about it. And
can I ask something?
Yes.
On that point, if Theresa May started talking about her sexual fantasies in public, would that be a good idea, do you think?
Well,
Alan Clark did.
would you say the same thing about Boris Johnson?
Well, I think we know about his sexual fantasies.
Exactly. I don't think there's a time, but would any businessman, no matter what industry, would anyone now just stand up and just, it's got to be in contact, and you talk about your sexual fantasies, it's still a private thing.
So there is still a barrier between private and public.
It's still sex is private, It's still
Unless you're 100 people at a party.
it's still private party.
Private party.
Private party, yeah.
No, just taking it back, it was very interesting in the 70s. There was a psychologist, and her name was Nancy, I have to remind myself. Friday. And she wrote a book, she had a book called My Secret Garden. And very much along these lines, and we're not talking about dreams, we're talking about fantasy. And most people, when they approach sex, have a fantasy in their mind to start evolving the situation. And it's always been assumed that women don't have them, because of course you wouldn't be a nice girl if you did. So Nancy Friday asked for women to send in their fantasies. And she created this book, My Secret Garden, which I give to many of my friends' young daughters, because she also wrote another book called My Mother, Myself, which showed you that you tend to take on the moral aspect of your parents. So, for example, I'm an Irish Catholic, which is just about as bad as Paul always complains. And as a consequence, I give these two books to most 18-year-olds that I know. Their parents wouldn't approve if I gave them to them at 16. But it's actually incredibly important, and her book, My Secret Garden, shows that women's fantasies are as good, bad, as
lurid.
Yeah.
They're just not discussed.
Yeah.
And therefore, may I suggest you all buy the book?
Yeah. Or have conversations with your female friends openly.
But on the subject of discussion, January was Mental Health Month, and the problem with mental health and with prostate cancer is that particularly men won't talk about health problems. So prostate cancer, they won't talk about it. So we're actually talking about the same thing in a completely different context, that we need to move into a world of being open and talking and sharing.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
And that's what you're trying to do. Get us all sharing.
And that's what, and now actually probably 80% of the events we do aren't the full-on killing kittens parties. We do talks, we do workshops, panel debates, just socials, and they're all sort of to do with that on the sharing front, and sanctuary weekends for couples, which is opening up, and on everything. So our whole platform, I mean, we've got 120,000 members on the platform.
That's in here and America.
Yeah, and in Australia as well.
And Australia. I just saw Sydney, because Sydney is a very free living city, isn't it?
It is. It's a good deco behind London though, section.
Well, yes, because
Okay.
prostitution in Sydney is legal, isn't it? But it isn't in London.
No.
I'm for one who thinks it should be.
No, on the female male. thing,
Right.
The general society.
Still machismo.
It's still very, you've got that male Aussie.
The male, we could talk about the male Aussie, I know a few.
That's a whole different talk.
Whole different talk, yes it is. Let's take Paul's question next.
Okay, just before I do that though, I think it's worthy of reminding ourselves when Kinsey did his sort of first sexual thing, when he did it on the guys, he was raved as this amazing sort of expanse, and right, as soon as he did it on women and the revelations that were coming out from women,
That we all got.
they shut him down as a madman.
Right, well let's have your question on the back
Okay.
of a madman.
You appear to have got everything you've ever dreamed of, but is there anything that killing kittens has prevented you from doing? And have you ever reached a point where you wish you'd ever taken a different path to get to where you are?
Do you know what, daily, I mean, it's been a battle, it's been 14 years, and especially at the beginning, you know, I lost friends, and I was,
Why
you know...
did you lose friends?
Because, why was I doing it, and it was disgusting, it was seedy, and I was mad, and people distanced themselves from me, so it kind of, you know, we have a group, if anyone knows, there's the app Slack, which is the kind of the business management, the team management app, and we use that because there's a lot of working from home and remote working with our tech team and stuff, and so our core team is called Gladiators, and that just sort of, it's just been it's a battle. And it's got a lot easier in the last few years, and actually with the old guard, so the new guard that's come in, a new CEO that came in 2 years ago and has brought in the new guard and the tech and stuff, he's like, wow, you know, when he came in, he said there were these 5 women, and we were prickly, and our guard it's because we'd had, you know, years of fighting and having to defend it and defend ourselves and what we were doing, and it hasn't prevented me from doing anything, because there's been times when someone's wanted to take me somewhere, and then it's like, oh, there's a problem, you know, you can't bring her and stuff. But I don't want to go.
You really get that? People say you can't bring her.
There's sort of.
Well, what sort of event
So, for
would that be?
example, was it Dunhill? Up at Dunhill.
Cigarette people.
The Dunhill Links up in Scotland.
Yeah.
Who's it? Johan Rubert, who runs that, and I was going out with a guy, and I'd helped him organise. Like Botham Clark golf tournament up in Archfields, and Johan Rubert had been part of this. You know, they're in a team, and I'd looked after him and his wife and everything. And a week later, it was Dunhill, and I was going up as the other half, and me and my other half at the time had basically a phone call saying, you can't, really sorry, but in the media-wise and publicity, it won't look good. I've been waiting, basically, when I come across Johan again.
And what will you
8
do?
years on.
What will you do?
I'll go out and I'll be very, kill him with kindness.
Yes.
But yeah.
Kill him nonetheless.
Yeah, exactly. So it's sort of, but every time that's happened, it fuels the fire. So and it's, you know, from day one, the more that's happened, I'm that person that I need those things to happen for me to go, fuck you, I'm doing it, and I'm going to prove you wrong, and it is going to work, and it is needed, and now, you know, it's sort of, there's been lots of, in the last few years, which is weird because it feels very uncomfortable to me, if I'm honest, and not something I'm comfortable at all with. I'm listed in business leaders lists, and, you know, inspirational entrepreneur lists and business leader mag and stuff, and it's, you know, and I've had to go, it's weird. I think probably in a year's time it might be, but it's just sort of, I'm been used to that, with this invisible force field, right? Suddenly it's sort of, it's been accepted, and you know, I'm in finalist awards for NatWest London Entrepreneur Awards and stuff, and to me it's just like, well, you know, it's 14 years, and wow, that, you know, that finally people, we've decided the joke in the office is me being asked when I'm going to get a proper job. for years.
I thought you were going to say when you're going to get your Dane book, or, you know. Lady Emma?
But you want that recognition, that sort of...
Do you know what, it's not why I've done it. And I think that's why it's not, I've always been behind It's Killing Kittens. It's the brand, it's the business, and it's only been the last sort of few years that it's sort of, there's the business, and it's kind of, then there's MSO. and it's not, I wouldn't say I'm comfortable, I'm getting more comfortable with it because I think it's needed. You need that figurehead, you need, as you get bigger, you do need the voice and the spokesperson and the story as well. And I understand it is, you know, this, the 14-year story is, it's, you know, it's a great story, which is something in the last year I've sort of realised. And there's that imposter syndrome as well, that of that, why would anyone want to remotely be interested in this story, which again I'm getting my head around. So it's just sort of, it's been a funny year.
But when everybody is interested in this story, and when you're accepted as mainstream, well, the buzz has gone.
Do you know what, I think there's partly, it's not the buzz, I think the fight. I think I'm someone that needs that to do something.
Why do people climb Everest? Because it's there.
Yeah, and I do those crazy challenges. So I'm an ultra endurance sports person as well, and I need that to almost death experiences. So there's something there. So I'll keep doing them, which will give me that buzz. But I've got an amazing team at Killing Kittens, and what I've done this summer is launch a sister platform, and I think that's giving me a massive buzz on that front, and it's something new, and I think it fits with how I as a person have changed. And as I said, you know, I've got 3 kids under 5 and I'm much more self-aware.
And are they aware of your business?
Well, I've got pictures of my 4-year-old waving the Killing Kittens flag through gay pride.
Yeah, does he know what it means?
He knows that it's about, he knows it's about women.
Right.
He hasn't, you know, he hasn't started school yet, so sex hasn't come across his radar, really. He's got girls and he's got boys, but
kids of that age don't know.
They just don't know.
Religion, colour, gender, they're just kids.
No, so he doesn't know at all. He just knows I do events and parties, and he knows that there's a lot of girls. So,
at your parties? And some men.
Yeah, and some men. Lots of men, actually. And we do men-only events as well, not the sex ones, like the talks and the workshops. And
I was about to.
Yeah, like add small print. Yeah.
There is a law coming out that's been, I think it's September now, this programme.
Is it the one that's being postponed?
Yeah, it keeps being postponed, about having to prove you're 18 if you go on a porn site. Well, one of the things I've not seen defined, and did ask a politician who just looked at me blankly, how you define porn. Where you will have to put in something, a credit card maybe, a passport ID, a driving licence, to prove you're 18 to access this site. Well, when the American government can be hacked, it's reasonable to assume anybody can be hacked. Are you going to qualify for having to put in that?
No, because we're already, to be honest, we're already 18, an adult site, and we already have...
Yeah, but they all are.
But we already have a verification process. So if you sign up to our site, once you get through, you have these auto-generated photos of someone in our team holding up a bit of paper, or doing something like that, or like that, or like that, and you have to take a selfie doing exactly the same thing to verify you're a real a real person. So we already have that kind of AI technology within our system. It's the porn sites like Pornhub and RedTube and all of that.
Hang on, I don't know those. Porn wife?
All of those ones that will have an age verification process, but that was meant to come out in April, and then it got
well, that was the first delay to April.
Yeah, and then it went to July, and now it's through. It's ridiculous. It's like, to me, it's sticking a band-aid on a really deep issue that we have.
So how do you solve the big problem?
To me, it's grassroots, and it's education, and it's starting them really young, and basically getting the sex education right. But I don't mean sex education by, look, this is what a willy looks like. I mean consent and boundaries and respect, and and that needs to start from a really early age. And I'm already looking at my 3. The 4.5-year-old starts school in September, and the way when he says, I don't want any girls to play in that, and I'm already pulling him up and correcting and having little conversations like that, and you need to start like that, so that you've got boys and girls coming through from a young age, knowing those boundaries and knowing the consent, and also not putting it on the girl, which is what the system does at the moment, where, well, those skirts are too short, so they change to make it shorts. And it's like, well, rather than pulling up the girls and saying you're the ones in the wrong for wearing a skirt that's too short, why aren't you putting up the boys to say, well, you shouldn't be behaving like that, and if they want to wear a skirt like that, they can wear a skirt.
But boys
like
can wear skirts now.
No, completely. But to me, that's where it starts.
But you touched something there, Emma, that is into a much bigger field, where I have a lot of opinions, and you can read about them on Good, Bad and Bad on my website. But respect. The biggest problem we have in society today is that respect has disappeared. And I challenged a bloke slightly younger than me a few weeks ago, because he was at an event in a town, and I know that stretch of the creek is very nice. You want to walk it, you want to take pictures, but it's private. And it says, private. And he went, I said, what are you doing? It's private. And he said, I'm not doing any harm. And I said, but hang on, we have kids who don't respect their teachers. We have kids you've just described who don't respect other kids. If somebody sees their dad or their granddad disrespecting a sign, that is going to sell a message to them. So how do we solve that problem? That's a biggie.
But again, this is where the education system needs to.
I know it needs to change, but how does it change?
By having a system and putting the classes in place that does teach, and you can do it, and getting psychologists involved. There's a lot of really good children's psychologists out there that teach, and through, it's not just sitting there in a classroom and preaching and giving them books to read and getting them to write notes. It's that active, interactive sort of, not experiments, but the where you immersive sort of lessons where you do the examples and you act out the examples, and that's where they've done some in Africa, and you know, about the consent, and they've used music and acting where the boys act and act it out and the girls act it out, just to show how. So
what you've described is actually good and bad teaching, whether you're talking about respect, sex or maths. You get teachers who engage with their kids and the kids respect them, and you get teachers who, as you say, stand there and read out the book. How are we going to change it? That's what I'm interested in.
Don't know.
To be honest.
So the girls can wear short skirts that look very sexually attractive, because why are they doing that? They want to attract men, they just look nice? Or?
You know what, it's a lot of the time I know girls who wear short skirts because they like wearing short skirts. They don't, it's not...
Isn't that being a bit sort of not really realising what's going on?
But then at the same time, you can say they're being provocative, but they're only being provocative if the male brain is seeing it and seeing it as sexual and thinking, well, I want to act out on that.
But blokes do that.
I know, but this is where you've got to not do it. You do it naturally. It's acting on it.
Instincts.
That's the thing. It's not sexual instincts. It's controlling those sexual instincts and respecting that girl isn't necessary. You can't put it on the girl and go, this is how men operate, this is how men think, therefore women have to change the way they behave and girls have to change the way they behave because boys and men can't control themselves if you're going to look like that. It's, yes, you're going to have those instincts, and trust me, girls have similar instincts. If we see a buff kind of builder or a topless fireman or ripped, trust me, there's part of me that would quite like to jump at.
Isn't that a Coca-Cola advert with the window clean?
But we're not, you know not to, and I know to respect him, and that
you'd still pleasantly talk to you, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you have that. I got whistled at by builders last week. I was on my way to mum's. No, and I went to mum.
But it's going to be made illegal, or is it?
I said I'm 41 years old, mum of 3, and I just got whistled at. I will take that as a win.
Yeah.
So that's fine, but it's the acting on, and it's the making the other person feel cheap and disrespected, and that they shouldn't be doing that. It's telling like young girls they shouldn't be doing that because they're encouraging boys. And it shouldn't be like that, because yes, boys, you're thinking that, but you can't put the onus on the girls to change their behaviour and change what they wear because boys can't control themselves. Because you're then going, well, you are a sex object.
But you see, if you go back to the 60s, which I remember rather well, being 30 years older than you, that you would be in the bus queue and the girls would be wearing short skirts, long skirts, trousers even sometimes. And you were all jockeying for position because you knew which girls were going to go upstairs. And you wanted to be following the girls in the short skirts upstairs. Yeah. And those girls then split into two groups, the innocent and the very, very far from innocent, who were doing it perfectly, deliberately to entrap you.
That's
so what do you do with that?
But there is that, But you're going to get that.
Memories.
Memories. Oh, you're from Ireland, it's all memories.
We've got double-decker buses in Ireland, mate.
Yeah, I know a joke about them, I'll tell you later.
You're going to get that, but at the same time, on the girls in the short skirt, but also you've got to educating the girls as well. So when I say the education of grassroots, it's teaching the girls they don't have to be doing that they should have more self-respect themselves. They don't need to be trying to entrap men. They don't need to be a sexual object. They've got more than that. They've got a brain. They could go out and be whatever they want to be. So when I say about the re-educating, this is not me having a go at boys and the males. This is me having a go at girls as well, because they need to not behave like that, thinking that the only way they're going to get by in life is with the help of a man. And so it's changing that, and that they're the inferior creature and inferior sex. And I had a go, like, it's last weekend. So my 4.5-year-old started playing cricket, and I was
He's a good boy.
and he started playing it, and I was at the cricket club, and I was standing there, and this mum came up with 2 girls, and they must have been about 6 and 8, and they went up to the main coach, and I was standing sort of a metre away, and she said, "Oh, we're new, and why do my daughters need to go?" And she said, "Well, how old are they?" And he said, "Well, what we do is the girls normally will go into like 2 years below age groups." And I went, "Whoa!" And he was like, "What?" I said, "That's not the opening way to do it." I said, "You asked if they were boys, what would you say? You'd put them into their age group." So the fact that often the girls will go down because of physically, that's not the opening thing. You have to say, what are their ages, these are the age groups, put them in the right age groups, and if they need to come down because they're physically not strong enough, then I said, but you can't just launch in, because not only you can't do that, you're doing it in front of the girls themselves, and the girls are listening, thinking, oh, well, we're inferior. It's that messaging that, and the head coach came up and said, she's exactly right, and actually, luckily, before I completely took his head off, the coach said, "Do you know what, you're completely right," and I hadn't even thought about it. And it's that, we do it, everyone does it. It's kind of this unconscious bias and subliminal kind of you do without thinking that needs to start right from little, because I find myself having to stop with my 2.5-year-old daughter. It's very easy to change, to have different ways and different things you say to the boys versus the girls, and it's that level.
Well, they are actually different,
they are very different.
And we should never lose sight of that.
Completely.
And see, I was going back to the cricket, that I was out on Sunday, where some years ago I would not have been out. I took this ball on, we were chasing runs, I was caught over a bloke's head on the boundary, and I cursed. The reason I was out was my shoulders aren't as strong as they were years ago. I mean, it would have gone way over his head years ago. And I sort of question a little bit here, is it better to say to the girls, well, look, we know you're physically not as strong as boys usually, so I'm going to start you lower down and move you up as quick as possible. Whereas if you put them in and then bring them back, that is a big...
But the system which you go into the... you just said it the wrong way, they do go into the right
all said the wrong way.
And not many actually come down. Most will stay in the correct... It's only when they hit about 13, 14 that then that strength and physicality will kind of kick in, and...
But women's cricket, which I think is great, women's cricket is on a roll. And the Dutch were one of the first, the women's cricket. The Dutch and the Kiwis. We're running close to time, but we've got a couple more questions. David, you had a question.
I did. Well, I didn't.
Well, you have a question. Why don't you submit more than one question out than one and spread it out?
I put my glasses on. I've not read it before. Are there ever any hissy fits at a KK party? Sexual jealousy, inadequate performance by males, too much attention being focused on someone, alcohol-induced aggression, etc. There's so much that could go wrong, surely. How do you diffuse such tensions or situations?
We have touched wood in 14 years. There haven't been real full-on hissy fits. We've had a few sort of the sexual jealousy, and especially fueled by alcohol. that.
So do you provide the booze, or do people bring it? Or?
No, we have it. They're all licensed
Right.
venues. Yeah, so licensed bars.
There's a lot of other parties.
Bring their own.
Well, no, they're booze free, booze banned. End of.
Are they?
Yeah.
You've read that somewhere.
You go to the wrong one.
No, we haven't. But the thing is, with our with the full-on kind of Kittens parties, we don't let single men in on their own. So every guy that comes has to be accompanied by a girl, and then we get single girls as well. So there's always sort of 60-70% women, 30-40% men, and so you don't get groups of guys. You don't have the testosterone factor. You don't. So that kind of the macho. We're just going to drink, and then.
So guys can't come on their own.
No.
So empowering women, men, and couples, quite true.
It is.
It is.
Yeah. Don't women have to invite the men?
Yeah, the women invite the men.
So a man has to come with a woman, not
Yeah.
with another man.
Because
No, a woman has to come with a man.
No,
No,
women can go alone. A man has to be accompanied by a woman.
A man.
English is a wonderful language.
A man can't go without being invited.
Yeah, so
You
men
have to have a friend who
You have to be
wants
invited.
Yeah, and we do singles.
Have you got all these
nights.
guys' phone numbers?
Yeah. We do
I'll
singles
make a note.
nights where we do let in single men, and it's kind of 50-50, so the single men can come along, and we just always make sure there's more women to the guys. Because the thing is, at the end of the day, from day one, it's been about creating a safe space for women to feel safe and in control of their sexuality and talk about their sexuality, and that's what it's been about. So there's plenty of places out there where men are in control and can make the first move, which is most of the sex setups in the world. So we're very much in the minority of what we do. So it's sort of, if guys want the other way around, then there's shitloads of places that you can go to on that. So that's just been how we operate and what I wanted to.
So it is actually, you use the words make the first move.
Yeah.
So there was a piece in something, I've been reading up on a lot this recently, somebody wrote in to an agony aunt
Yeah.
and said that they've been happily married for so long but they haven't got any children because they can't have any children, and her husband seems to have lost interest in sex. She always has to make the first move, and the reply was, that doesn't mean he's lost interest in sex, but the women who get the most satisfaction from sex are usually those that make the first move. So does that fit in with your...
It does fit in, because it's one of the reasons why I set it up, and the more I was looking at it, working at the erotic show and everything, was the differences for sex between men and women, and it was sort of, the porn back then, there's a lot more female-friendly porn now, but that brightly lit porn of like just seeing some guys just going for it, men will watch it and be turned on, and that's it. Whereas the women, it's sort of, it's the touch, the feel, the smell, the ambience. Our biggest sex organs are our brains, which a lot of people don't realise. The biggest, the female sexual is our brain. So it's that bit that needs to be turned on, and it's sort of, and I know if I've had a hectic day at work and it's all full on, and then the kids to the face, in the evening, if my husband suddenly tries to jump me, I'm like, get off. If he takes me out to dinner an hour later, I'll be all over it. My brain needs to be, my brain is not needs to get out of that battered mud.
Well, you talk about that on your website. I was watching it this morning, where you talk about liberation, but you do this a lot. You use the word eyes. In that video, you talk about the eyes and the eye contact.
It's that connection, and it's sort of, and that's where the difference is. So one thing when I, did the creative, was to provide somewhere where actually women, it was about them, and it wasn't, the actual sex was sort of a byproduct. If it happened, it happened, but actually the world and the community and the online and the offline side was that sort of space where you could chat fantasies and everything, and all come together and meet like-minded people, and then actually if you wanted to go to a party and actually have sex, then you have sex. But it's not, the Killing Kittens parties aren't a case of going there and having to have sex.
They're not full-on bonking sessions.
There is full-on bonking, but probably 50-60% of the attendees will full-on bonk in some capacity. You might get and it's not necessarily full-on bonking. It might be sort of girls that want to, you know, who are bi-curious, who just want to see what it's like with other girls. It's couples where, you know, nowadays there's a lot more openness, so that within sort of what has been very straight couples, there's often the women will be bi-curious or be bisexual, and now it's sort of slightly more socially acceptable and out there. There's a lot more coming out, so they'll come along because the woman is bisexual, and by coming to a party, she's sort of, you know, with husband, there's other women, and every box is ticked.
Every box is ticked. We'll have to bring it up, we. Now, we got one more question. Who did I give this one to about attendance?
I think it's me.
We got that one over there, yeah.
Actually, don't mind too. Firstly, why are the masks important at the start of the occasion?
Well, you've got to remember that it was 3 days without sleep when I started it, and the only two things I wanted rules, like the rules in Fight Club, and masks, like Eyes Wide Shut. And to me also it was, if you put a mask on someone, they feel anonymous. Anonymous? I can't remember. It's a wine. One glass.
One glass?
I haven't eaten all day. That's going to say. So it kind of, even though you know exactly who it is, people, when you put a mask on, you feel like people can't see you and you're in disguise. And so it's that, for us, you get a lot of, you know, every party we have, 50% of the people that come are newbies and like first timers, and so nervous. And if they have to wear masks, and they can come in feeling like no one recognises them, no one knows who they are, and sort of there's that, yeah.
That sort of runs into the second question.
But they don't keep the mask on all evening.
No, it's up to them. So some people will keep them on all night, but the majority of people, because masks are a pain in the ass, to be honest, and really uncomfortable. So most people
Do they have to bring them, or do you provide them?
We provide them indoors, but most people bring their own.
Right.
So I just wonder, how many people find it's not for them? Just come once, so to speak.
If you've got 50 or 60 people new each time, it must be quite a turnover.
Yeah, it's a turnover, but then the nature of what it is, it's not something, you get sort of the diehards that this is what they do every single weekend, that's their lifestyle. But you get a lot of people that, you know, it's a fantasy thing that they'll come to once, twice a year. It's not something, for most people, it's not something that they, you know, it's not a monthly thing. It's something that is part of them exploring their relationship together and feeling code, and they go, well, let's go and do this. It's like, you know, it's like going on away for like sort of romantic breaks, a weekend away. You won't go to the same place. You won't do that weekend every single month. You might do it as an annual thing. So the nature of what it is, it's not something actually that most people is a regular monthly thing.
You don't do loyalty points then, encourage people.
We don't even
They do a loyalty card. Now there's a lot.
One of our memberships actually is a monthly fee, and you get one party a month free. So the more regular ones can do that.
Now you spoke about your father. You didn't mention your mother. How do they feel about it? Do you know what, Mum thought it was great, and she was more worried. Her worry was how protective Mum, how I'd be treated. But she got it. She could see why I wanted to do it, and I think part of her was sort of willing me on. She's not with Dad anymore, but just sort of because there was so much potential in her. So she sort of was behind me like that. Dad thought it was absolutely disgusting to start with, and apparently went completely crazy. But now he's sort of CD old man, and he's jumping from one Eastern European to the next, half his age. So he thinks it's really cool. Well, I'm going to finish by reading you something that I cut out of somewhere. Probably the Metro, looking at that, because this is horrendous, and I think this is part of what you're all trying to stop happening. It comes from Mexico. The convenience chain store Circle K has apologised for an offer which urged businessmen to mark the country's annual Secretary Day by buying a special £8 executive combo for their secretary. Wine, chocolates, and a packet of condoms. It swiftly withdrew the advert after it was banned on social media. Comment?
You can't really close to stupid.
Chocolate?
You know.
Chocolate. Well, we are pushing your time. I know you've got a very important appointment with Peter Pan.
So yeah, I got told at a different time.
Yeah.
And there's the media viewing of Peter Rabbit.
Peter Rabbit. I knew Peter really well.
At the Royal Theatre, and my 4-year-old's there, and I was stuck between a rock and a hard place, wasn't I, when I got there? I went, "Fuck."
Do you have any rocks?
So, yeah.
Oh no, don't go there.
So he's in there with my husband, and I'm getting there for the tail end of it.
No.
So, yeah.
Oh, very droll. Thank you, Paul. Yes. Emma, thank you. It's been lovely seeing you and being so frank and open. And that ends the summer, and it's certainly been more entertaining. Do I say this? Of course I do. It's certainly been more entertaining than some of the guests we've had there.
The MP.
Oh, I didn't say that, as Jimmy Young. No, Jimmy Young used to say, "I'm glad I didn't say that," didn't he? We do return in October with Rooney Anand, who is an incredible guy. He turned Green King from a little local brewery into what it is today over 14 years. Rumour has it that although he's no longer CEO and heading up a kiddies charity, he's going to bring some samples from Green King. And then in November, on the 12th of November, we have Peter Hain, who of course outed Philip Green in the House of Lords. And well, one of the questions will obviously be, did it make any difference?
No.
I don't know. No, you see, we've got our first answer. No, it didn't. What do you think about Philip Green?
I think he's an asshole. No, I think it's there's too many loopholes that allow people.
But if somebody brought him to one of your parties, would you let him in?
No, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't.
You wouldn't. So you wouldn't. But if he found someone to take him along, you'd say no.
No, yeah, I'd say no, because he doesn't fit the
He's too large.
what it's about, and just how he operates. And there's been there's been a lot of harassment things about his party, and I know people are way too to staff. I just think and all the tax loopholes he's jumped into, I just think bollocks.
So you're not moving offshore.
No.
Ladies and gentlemen, Emma Sayle.